hold 2 of these events a year. End the Fed, audit the Fed protest. Thanks everybody again for coming out. Yeah. My name is Nathan Cox. Some of y'all know me, some of y'all do not. I am involved in and founded Virginia Cop Block, which is a police accountability group here in Virginia. We've done a lot of great things. We were one of the first media outlets that broke the story about Brandon Robb and his whole situation of being kidnapped by the feds for some simple Facebook posts. Him and his family are here today, and we're blessed to have them here. We got about 3 speakers speaking. We got Floyd Bayne is going to be first. We're going to have Chris Dorsey and then Sean Anthony. Let me see. And then after the 3 invited speakers get done speaking, everybody will have the opportunity to either jump on the microphone or the megaphone and say whatever you want to the crowd or whatever you want to the Federal Reserve for up to 2 minutes, a 2-minute rant to the crowd or to the Fed. So go ahead and think about that. You don't have to get on the mic, but I want to afford everybody the opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and invite up here, well, first before I invite Josh up here, one of our most recent projects that Virginia Cop Block did was a project called the Liberty Empowerment Project. We raised about $3,000 just from private donations and ad sponsorships and printed out a bunch of material that talked about jury nullification, police accountability, knowing your rights, and just the basic fundamentals of civil rights. We ended up turning that literature into 10,000 packets, and we went door to door in the worst housing projects in Richmond and gave this information to people, and we received it with, with arms wide open. We had no problems from anybody. Everybody was very appreciative and thankful for the information that we were handing out. And I want to let y'all know, if you're interested in the information, I brought quite a bit of it here and laid it out by the lamp post here. You just feel free to grab a couple bags if you want. Information in there again talks about just the philosophy of liberty, what to do if you have to go to court, jury nullification, knowing your rights when dealing with the police and stuff like that. So please feel free to take one. The literature was created by Meg McLean, who's walking around here somewhere. She's actually live streaming this event on her website, McLean.com. She was actually the one who wrote the initial story about Brandon Robb and that whole situation. So she deserves a lot of credit for a lot of what Virginia Cop Block has done. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Josh Clayton. Josh Clayton was the one who provided this nice sound equipment. He's in a local band here, formerly known as Capulet, now known as Atlas. They are pro-liberty for the most part, and they do have tracks and songs that are anti-state and anti-Federal Reserve and stuff like that. So I want to give a warm welcome to Josh Clayton, and he's going to say a few words and introduce our first speaker, Floyd. Josh?
Woo! Get him juice!
Thanks, Nathan. What's up, everybody? It's good to see all of you out here. A lot of people, a lot of energy. Really give a big thank to Nathan and Meg. I only helped out a little bit. We had Angus over here do a lot more work on the streets than I did. But again, it's just really good to see all these people out here interested in making a change in your world, positive change any way that you can, especially exposing these corrupt institutions like this. And so I want to introduce Floyd Bayne, first speaker. He's a former congressman and a literal champion of the Constitution, so I'm told. So some good information that we could use in a time like this. So introduce Floyd Bayne.
All right.
Hey guys, well, a little bit of a correction here. I'm not a former congressman, but I have run for it.
I apologize.
That's okay. It's a nice thought. Well guys, how's everybody doing today? Good.
Woo!
Yeah. Good. Big thank you to Nathan and all the folks that helped put this together. It's important that we get together to make sure people hear our voices and to stay in touch with people of like mind, so we know that we're not the only ones out here doing this. I know if you guys are anything like me, there are times when you're sitting at home watching TV or reading the paper or something and you think, does anybody else care about this stuff? Yeah. Am I the only guy who's thinking this right now?
Every day, man.
All right, good. That's why this is important, so we all know that there are some others doing it. Well, when Nathan asked me to speak today, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to talk about. I mean, you guys know what the problem is. Many of you are well educated on the numbers and the mechanism that is the Federal Reserve. So what could I tell you that you didn't already know? It occurred to me, as someone who's run for political office, that we don't hear enough about something called political will. By that I mean the will to step up, do the right thing, and recognize that the Fed is the problem and work to abolish it. In recent history, you can count the number of national representatives who have spoken against the Fed on one hand. And you can count on the fact that the media and the political machines in this country will do everything they can to paint those few representatives as being the crazy ones. Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw how the party treated Ron Paul in Florida. We've seen how the media treats him. So you guys know what I'm talking about. So I decided that I would address this lack of political will among the vast majority of our elected representatives. Let me ask you guys here today, do you know where your representative stands on the issue of the Federal Reserve, auditing or abolishing it? Well, I know where mine stands, and that's one of the reasons I ran against him. Have you ever heard him or her speak out with any conviction or sincerity about, at the very least, auditing the Fed or abolishing the Fed? No! I know mine certainly hasn't. In fact, when Ron Paul first introduced his Audit the Fed bill a couple of years ago, my representative, Mr. Cantor, took almost 18 months to come on board. He had to be pushed to do that. Is the idea of a national bank new to our country? Is it to be viewed as only a 20th or 21st century creation and problem? Or has the idea of a national bank been presented to us before? If so, when and by whom, and how was it dealt with? Again, are we the only ones who think about this stuff? The first national bank was established in February of 1791 at the behest of Alexander Hamilton. Right away, there were opponents who recognized the threat of such a bank to the sovereignty and economic stability of the general population, us the taxpayers. Men such as Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, both Virginians, they stated that they felt the bank was unconstitutional and that it benefited merchants and investors at the expense of the majority of the population. In his opposition to the establishment of such a bank, Thomas Jefferson wrote, and I quote, "I consider the foundation of the Constitution as laid on this ground, that all powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states or to the people. To take a single step beyond the boundaries thus specially drawn around the powers of Congress is to take possession of a boundless field of power, no longer susceptible of any definition. The incorporation of a bank and the powers assumed by this bill have not, in my opinion, been delegated to the United States by the Constitution." And I think we all agree. Any of us here who can read and comprehend the English language know that the federal government has no authority to establish this entity. Right. So, like Jefferson, there are many of us who understand that the Federal Reserve, or any national bank, is unconstitutional. But that has never stopped the progressives, or more accurately in this case, the regressives among us, has it? Jefferson further stated, "I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and the corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs."
Yeah.
Are we seeing his words come to pass?
Yeah.
The man was rather prescient. James Madison was equally concerned about the effects of a national bank. He stated, I quote, "History records that the money changers have used every form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means possible to maintain their control over governments by controlling money and its issuance." Said in the 18th century, and every bit as true today as it was then. These two great Virginians were not the only Americans who expressed concern about a national bank. Let's look at some of the other great Americans who opposed such a bank. Ben Franklin, answering a question about the booming economy of the young colonies, said, "That is simple. In the colonies, we issue our own money. It is called colonial scrip. We issue it in proper proportions to the demands of trade and industry. It's also worthy of note that colonial scrip had no debt or interest attached." In 1836, when Andrew Jackson vetoed the renewal of the 1816 bank charter, by the way, does anybody else here find it ironic that Andrew Jackson's picture's on the $20 bill? I wonder what he'd think about that. He said, "If the American people only understood the rank injustice of our money and banking system, there would be a revolution before morning." President James Garfield, before his assassination, said, "Whoever controls the money in any country is absolute master of industry, legislation, and commerce." We haven't seen any of that around here, have we? No, I didn't think so. When the Federal Reserve Bill was before Congress in 1913, there was at least one representative who saw it for what it was, and he spoke out against it. Charles Lindbergh Sr. of Minnesota showed the political courage to try and stop this onerous legislation. He stated, quote, "This Federal Reserve Act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When President Wilson signs this bill, the invisible government of the monetary power will be legalized. The worst legislative crime of the ages is perpetrated by this banking and currency bill." He went on to point out something that has come to pass and that all of us can readily see. From now on, depressions will be scientifically created. So, is this current economy an accident? No. Before his assassination in November of 1963, John F. Kennedy issued an executive order which called for the issuance of new currency, the United States note. At the time, $4,292,893 of this currency was put into circulation. This new currency was to be distributed through the U.S. Treasury and not the Federal Reserve System. Furthermore, it was to be issued debt and interest-free. Upon Kennedy's assassination, this currency was withdrawn from circulation, never to be issued again. Coincidence? I think not. And the most recent voice speaking out against the Fed, our national bank, has been Congressman Ron Paul of Texas. We have seen what the media and the party have tried to do to him, yet after 30 years of consistently beating home the message of audit or abolish the Fed, we have only recently seen some small movement in that direction. In a rare moment of bipartisanship, the House overwhelmingly passed a bill, presented by Representative Ron Paul, to audit the Federal Reserve. Even though the bill would be watered down in the Senate, the resulting audit by the Government Accounting Office revealed some startling numbers. Was Thomas Jefferson right? You tell me. $16 trillion has been secretly given out to U.S. banks and corporations and foreign banks everywhere from France to Scotland. Among those who received the largest loans were Citigroup, $2.5 trillion, Morgan Stanley, $2.04 trillion, Merrill Lynch, $1.949 trillion, Bank of America, $1.344 trillion, and Barclays PLC in the United Kingdom, $868 billion. And that's just the top 5. I'm not even including all the foreign entities that received money. And just how much of that money do you suppose made its way back into the campaign coffers of various congressmen and senators? Again, this is no accident. Wouldn't that make for an interesting audit? So we've gotten to this point in the process of auditing or abolishing the Fed, not just because of Americans past, or because of Ron Paul, but because of people like you, people who hold elected officials accountable, people who will not be silenced or intimidated, people who care about the future of our nation and the legacy we will leave our children, because we continue to carry that message forward, we continue to work for the day when our representatives in Washington, D.C. start to care more about our nation, care more about future generations, care more about the sovereignty of the United States of America than they do for their own bank accounts and careers. So keep fighting the good fight. Keep the pressure on your elected officials. Don't back down for 1 minute. Demand that your elected representatives respect and adhere to the Constitution. Hold them accountable when they shirk their responsibilities. Accept no excuses. And let's see to it that the future of the United States of America is brighter than anything previously imagined. I'm proud to be counted among your numbers and wish to thank all of you for everything you do to help restore our public. Good day.
Give it up for Floyd Bayne.